I've barely taken this bad boy off in about 6 months now, and it's probably one of the most expensive things I own, even more expensive than my car. So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what it's like having a Garmin
Still
Forerunner
going.
965, what I like about it, how it compares to other options, and if it's worth spending your money on. Kicking off with the design of this watch then, I used to have a Garmin Fenix, which I absolutely loved, and I had it for about 5 years. So when I was looking to get a new Garmin, I was looking at the Fenix range, I was looking at Coros, I was looking at the Forerunner, and actually what kind of tipped me over the edge is one of the members came into the gym and he had this watch on, and I kind of looked at it and I was like, what is that massive watch that you've got on your wrist? It was like the Garmin Forerunner 965. Turns out it wasn't actually any bigger than my Fenix, but just the real estate in terms of the screen display that you get on this for the size of the watch is such a good ratio. So you get a really nice vivid display. It's obviously the AMOLED display, so it's much like a phone display. It's also much lighter than a Fenix. It's I can't remember what it's made out of, but it's more plasticky, less kind of like heavyweight. And actually, when I'm looking at like heart rate variability, sleep metrics, and all of these things, it made sense to go for something that's a bit more lightweight, a bit more comfortable, and something that I can wear 24/7. I don't mind sleeping with. With the Fenix, it wasn't very comfortable to wear like all night, all of the time. I was wearing it on and off, and that makes the heart rate variability and the sleep metrics and stuff not as accurate or not as good as it could be. Out of the box, it comes with a really nice silicone strap, just like most fitness watches. They're all very similar. Strap is very nice. The buttons on this Garmin are much the same as other Garmins that you might expect. This one does come with touchscreen, which is really awesome. But to be honest, most of the time I'm using the buttons. I just find them a bit more responsive, a bit more easy to use, a bit more what I'm used to. And when you're out doing like activities, exercising, running, cycling, whatever it may be, feeling for the buttons is much easier than looking down at the screen and having to kind of like scroll through and press, because you don't get as much feedback. Whereas the buttons, you can physically feel them. You can turn the touchscreen off if you want to. I leave it on, but most of the time I'm using the buttons. The display itself, super cool, really vivid colors. Definitely the best display of any watch that I've had. And I actually had the 955 for a short period of time. And the only real difference between that watch and this watch is the display, and we'll get onto that a bit later in this video. So the fitness tracking then, and what I've particularly been using this watch for. Now, if you're looking for a Garmin watch or a Coros watch or a Polar watch or a watch like that, then you're definitely into your fitness, as opposed to maybe somebody that's looking for an Apple Watch or maybe a smartwatch and those other features. Garmin is definitely geared towards that fitness tracking a lot more. I've personally been using it for running, cycling, hyrox based training, some strength stuff. I've used it on the track, I've used it out on the trail. GPS wise, it tracks everything really well. The only issues I've had is where we're going sort of under trees or through tunnels, and then maybe it messes up my paces a little bit. But for the most part, I think that's going to happen with every kind of fitness tracker out there. The GPS seems really good and really accurate. Even on the track, instead of track mode, I've still just been using my normal run mode on the watch because I have it all set up with all the data screens that I want, and the GPS just seems to be accurate enough. In terms of like the data fields that you get and customizing them for running, swimming, for cycling, and basically everything, you you can customize everything on there to display the data fields that you want. And with the screen being so nice, it's really clear. You can have quite a lot of fields on there. You can have all the different information that you might want on there. For like cycling, I've got my power, I've got average power, I've got peak power. You can put on there the elevation. You can put just every bit of data that you want on there: cadence, heart rate, time, average speeds, all of those good things. You can set them up on there. When it comes to the strength based stuff, it's not great at that, and there's no watch that is great at that, to be honest. It tries to count the sets, the reps, and those sorts of things like during the strength sessions, but to be honest, like that's just completely out, and that's fine with me, because all I'm looking for it to track really is the time and my heart rate for that session, just as a way to capture it and upload it into Training Peaks. So that's really what I've been using it for. But honestly, on there's a list of like a million different activities you can choose on. It's probably one of the watches with the most kind of fitness activities you can specifically choose from. There's stand-up paddleboarding, there's golf on there, there's triathlon. You can set up custom mode. So I've got like hyrox on there. There's all sorts of things on there that you can kind of track as activities. and kind of fitness workout sessions. So fitness tracking, pretty standard from that point of view. I don't think there's anything better than it, but it does everything very well. And then the standout things for me in terms of this watch are all the health metrics that you get. I'm particularly interested in heart rate variability, training readiness, my VO2 max predictions, my race predictions. I actually really like those as well. So it'll give you, based on all the training that you've done and your current kind of heart rate variability and those things, it will give you race predictions for like a 5K, 10K, half marathon. Sometimes I think they're completely off, but at the moment, mine seem pretty accurate in terms of what I think I'd be able to achieve in a rested state. The sleep monitoring is also really good, and obviously that then plays into the heart rate variability. But the key thing here is it gives me like a second opinion, almost a more quantifiable opinion, where I can take my emotions away from things and think, yeah, actually maybe I'm not ready to train. I've overdone it recently, or actually, I'm not feeling motivated, but my watch is telling me that I'm in pretty good shape in terms of physical ability and those sorts of things. And actually, maybe I just need to look at that and take that as a positive and go for it. So in terms of accuracy for those things, obviously that's massively important. And there have been occasions where I think, oh my God, I look at the watch and it's just way out. Maybe it thinks I'm overtraining or I'm detraining, and actually I'm not, training as much. I'm not feeling very sore, and actually I feel like I've got quite a lot of energy. Or sometimes where it says that I'm ready and actually I feel absolutely wiped out. That can sometimes be the case if I've done like a huge amount of strength training or very intense strength training, and actually like I'm very sure I've got a lot of DOMs, but it thinks that I can run quite fast because my heart rate variability has been okay, my heart rate has been okay, and my sleep's been good. So it thinks I'm in a rested state, but I've got quite a lot of muscle soreness and muscle damage, which obviously it's quite difficult for the watch to gauge and measure those things. There's no other watch that can do that either. But the more I've been wearing it, actually, the more I feel like it's really quite accurate, particularly when it comes to like the heart rate variability. I can now pretty much predict when I'm going to get ill or about to get ill. I feel like there's been some cases where I kind of actually stopped myself getting ill because I can see my heart rate variability not going great. And in the past, maybe I was in the middle of a training block and I would just completely try and smash through it anyway. But instead, I would step off the gas. I'd focus on sleep more. I'd focus on the nutrition side of things more. Focus on the general recovery and relaxing a little bit more. And my heart rate variability then, instead of keeps going down, it starts coming up, and maybe I don't get ill. I mentioned earlier about connecting this up to Training Peaks. I have all of my endurance-based training through Training Peaks, and then for strength-based stuff, I have through like another application. I absolutely love Garmin Connect. Give you so much information on there. They've got this new glances thing that I haven't fully set up or worked out a way that kind of I find it most useful, but I'm getting all the data I need, and it just automatically syncs with everywhere. I love having my running program come through Training Peaks. Comes up straight on the watch. It tells me, I don't know, I need to be at this pace for 3 minutes, and I need to be at this pace for 4 minutes, and it gives me like a guided training program on my wrist, and it's very easy to follow. It's also got suggested workouts on there if you don't have a program. I've done a few of those. They're pretty good. If you've got any questions on those things, put them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. I don't want to spend loads of time on that. The other aspect of these types of watches is obviously that they're smart watches. You can get your phone notifications on there. You've got music. Recently, I've been using music on the watch, and it's awesome because I can just download some of my Spotify playlists. You can't stream, but you can download them to the watch. It syncs up to my Shocks headphones. That works just flawlessly. In terms of the notifications, in the past I turned them on because I don't really like to get them from my phone and then it comes onto my watch. There's no point in me having double notifications, but actually having this watch, I've kept them on and I've moderated it a bit better. And there's been a couple of occasions where I've found it particularly useful, and they come through like extremely quick. I don't think it does anything beyond, like, obviously an Apple Watch is probably better when it comes to smartwatch stuff. When it comes to Coros and Polar and other Garmin watches, I think it's probably just as good. Battery life and charging then, before we get on to, is the watch worth it? Because it's a massive price tag. The battery lasts, say, 3 to 5 days, depending on how many activities you've done. I've done recently, maybe I've done like 4 activities, one where I use the GPS and music for like an hour and a half, and then 3, maybe two runs and 2 strength sessions, and I've still got like 20% battery. What I think is really special about this watch compared to some of the other watches and like my phone and stuff is it charges like insanely quickly. I needed to go out for a run the other day and I noticed I had like 15% charge on it, and to be honest it probably wouldn't absolutely fine because I think the run only took about 2 or 3% off of it. But what I did, I just threw it on charge for like 10 minutes and it took me from like 15% to like 35%. You know, that's just with me kind of bimbling around, just getting ready to go out for a running. And in that time, it's charged to like a really good amount. So I think that's really useful. So the big question, is it worth it? And it's an absolutely huge price tag on these new watches, I think personally anyway. I guess it's all relative, but they do seem very expensive. You know, the Apple Watch, the latest Garmin's, the Phoenixes, they're just crazy money. Yes, personally, my old Phoenix I had for about 5 years, and I paid about £500 for it. Maybe it was 4 years, but it was about there. So that's roughly costing me £100 a year. That's kind of how I'm trying to justify it. And if you look how much use out of it I got, it's probably one of the most used things that I own, you know, full stop really. If there was one thing that I was going to buy fitness wise or gadget wise, it would probably be a watch like this. Now, do you need the most expensive one, the top of the range one, the newest one out? That's kind of like another question, another debate. The answer is probably no, because some of the lower end models have the same sort of features anyway. Before this one, I actually had the Forerunner 955 for a short period of time. I got that one first because, you know, my partner bought it for me for my birthday, and they're expensive and those sorts of things. And comparing the 955 to 965, it was like, you might as well just get the 955 because it's got the same software, the same features in terms of what you use it for and stuff. It's got all the same sort of internals. The only real difference is just the AMOLED display. But then I had something go wrong with that watch, and so I had like a credit note for the amount of that watch. And I was like, oh, I could just pay a little bit extra and then I get the awesome AMOLED display, the latest watch, and it's super nice. So that's why I ended up with this one. But ultimately, I think like the 955 is super good as well. 945, that's really good as well. It's, you know, it's encouraging you to do healthy, positive things with your life. Ultimately, like, I think that's extremely valuable. So that's my take on it anyway. I'll put a link to the watch that I've got in the description below. If you buy it through that link, that might help me out somewhat. That would be super useful. But yeah, that's just my honest review. I'm not paid to do these. The Garmin obviously don't send me watches. See you in the next one.